Perfect. So good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Nidhi Menon, and I'm a senior associate at Imagine H2O. And I'm so excited to kick off the Urban Water Challenge's sessions at Stockholm World Water Week, starting with the Swedish fish tank, a Shark Tank-inspired startup pitch session on urban water challenges. Before I begin, I'd like to give a special shout out to the Urban Water Challenge founding partner, 11th Hour Racing and Oceankind. Without their support, none of our work would be possible. So a huge thank you to you. On to today's agenda. I'd like to start off by giving you a little overview on Imagine H2O and the challenge. Then I'll hand over the session to Kelly Trott, the VP of Deployment and Impact at Imagine H2O, and she will introduce our judges and our 5 finalists as they present their urban technologies. Finally, we'll end with an interactive voting session from you, the audience, on which entrepreneur came out of the Swedish fish tank alive. So let's get started. Imagine H2O is a global nonprofit that helps transform emerging water technology startups into successful businesses. We view entrepreneurs as powerful change agents to water resilience. And by providing these entrepreneurs with the right tools they need to become bigger and better, their solutions get adopted into the market faster. How do we do this? We do this through our 3 programs. One, the Imagine H2O Accelerator, which I think a lot of you know about. It's now in its 12th year, and it's our global flagship startup program, and it's run out of San Francisco. Imagine H2O Asia is based in Singapore, and it's an accelerator and a market access platform that provides a bridge for global solutions accessing the Asia Pacific region. And the Urban Water Challenge, which is a global deployment challenge, and I'm going to dig deeper into. So what is the Urban Water Challenge? We live in an era where innovation is advancing at an unprecedented rate. Technology is really changing the way we live in cities. Think about the food we eat. We've got startups like Plenty and their indoor vertical farming that's changing the way we get our groceries. Think about the way we commute. We have Lime bikes, city bikes, Lyft bikes that we take from place to place in cities now, and it's very different from the conventional buses and trains we used to take earlier. And think about the way we work. For the past year and a half or 2, I can't even count the number of times I've used Zoom because it's been multiple times a day. And I can bet everyone in the audience has Zoom downloaded on their laptops. So innovation is working across sectors and it's playing such a huge role in our lives. But has it been changing the way we think about water? There are many brave entrepreneurs and industry leaders out there who have been working to revolutionize the sector. But it's been a slow process. And that's because of industry-wide barriers that are making it difficult to innovate at to get to innovation at scale. And this is like some examples of that would be like safety standards, lack of funding, misaligned incentives, and things like that. But in short, what needs to happen is that the water innovation sector needs help. And that's where the Urban Water Challenge comes in. The Urban Water Challenge is a global competition for entrepreneurs who are ready to launch their technology in cities. Through a combination of financial awards, increased visibility, and introduction to partners and investors, winners receive industry-wide validation that opens up new opportunities for adoption, scaling, and follow-on funding. And the challenge gives urban water tech a powerful chance to shine on a global stage. An example of that is today at Stockholm World Water Week. And the challenge also provides communities with a steady flow of tested solutions that can make cities' water systems more efficient, equitable, healthy, and resilient. Now that I've given you a little bit of an overview of the challenge, I'm excited to pass the mic on to my fantastic colleague, Kelly Trott, who leads the Urban Water Challenge, and she'll give you more details on what's in store for you today.
Thanks so much, Nidhi. And for those of you that don't know Nidhi, she's a total rock star in the space, especially around storytelling and marketing. So make sure to get to know her. Nidhi and I have been very, very excited for this session. One, to kick off Stockholm World Water Week for Imagine H2O, but two, because this is a reunion of sorts. We are bringing back Urban Water Challenge alum to tell us their story, what's happened since you've been a part of the program, and where are you going from there. But just like all Imagine H2O sessions, this one has a little bit of a twist. We made this a competition for additional award funding. So we invited two sharks, or what we like to call Swedish fish, to be judging the session and asking them some pointed questions around their deployment and their impact. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to these amazing Swedish fish. First up, we have someone that's been a part of the Imagine H2O family longer than I have. Sivan Zamar is a civil engineer by training, and she has headed up 2 different water startups, and both of them have been a part of Imagine H2O. And now she is the Senior Director of Xylem Innovation Labs, which I'll let her tell you a little bit more about. Take it away, Sivan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Kelly. What Kelly said is true. I have been part of Imagine H2O 2 different times, brought both of my companies as a former water technology entrepreneur through the Imagine H2O program. So I think very, very highly of it. And I'm a huge fan of all of the staff and all of the programming. And I think that Imagine H2O has really made a big difference in the water world and been part of making being a water entrepreneur a actually cool career path. So now I'm leading the innovation program at Xylem that's working with startups and new technology companies. We have a lot of new exciting programming coming up, so I'm not going to plug it here, but stay tuned. And having been an entrepreneur before, I'm really excited to hear about all of the entrepreneurs that are presenting today and their companies and technologies. And I just wanted to share that, staying on theme, I did make sure to have my own bag of Swedish fish here as a part of the judging. So I'll be using these as refreshments while everybody's fishing.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sivan. I also have some, and I didn't have them right here, so I'll have to bring them out at the end. But second up, we have someone who I've been excited to get to know this last year. Jitin Mingali, he recently announced the launch of Aqualateral, which is a family office-backed investment vehicle focused on water. And he has an extremely impressive background in private equity, impact investing, and smart cities and urban technologies. So I'll let him tell you a little bit more about that.
Sure, thank you. And thanks for having me, Kelly. As Kelly mentioned, my name is Jitin Manglani. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Aqualateral. We're very new. We're a newly established family office-backed investment vehicle, started a couple months ago. And we're dedicated to backing funds, entrepreneurs, technologies, and assets focused on addressing the water scarcity crisis. We're stage agnostic. We invest across asset classes, so we're very flexible. And as Kelly mentioned, I've been in and around the infrastructure, impact, and sustainability space for the last 15 years. And I'm excited to be working with Imagine H2O and the teams presenting here today and addressing how technology can change how water flows through cities and communities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. These are our 2 very scary looking Swedish fish, and I'm excited to jump into the Shark Tank portion of our presentation. Up first, we have our inaugural winner, who is bringing access to safe drinking water beyond the pipe in Bangladesh, Manoj Chowdhury. And I want to make sure that you keep an eye out on social media. We'll be presenting and really where you can see his technology in action in a video next week, but I will let him take it from here first. And you should be all set, Manoj.
Thanks so much, Kelly. Let's see. Okay, great. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Minhaj Chowdhury, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Drinkwell. And growing up as a Bangladeshi American, I always wondered why people like my grandpa passed away due to the water crisis. But that question was quickly answered when every summer I would find myself in Bangladesh, where during the peak of the drought season, you would have protests. Here is a photo of such a protest in 2016, where in the center you have an adolescent girl who's holding up a sign saying Pani Chai, which means I want water in Bangla. And there's actually 4 million people like this adolescent girl who actually live beyond the pipe. And what that means is people who don't have a legal address and consequently don't have access to piped water in Dhaka, which is the largest, most densely populated city in Bangladesh, which is the 8th most populous country in the world. Now at Drinkwell, what we do is we actually partner with utilities like Dhaka Wasa to provide a professionally managed safe water service to these people who live beyond the pipe. Now, these people are traditionally used to going to one of 700 different pump houses where they basically are subjected to inconsistent water quality at inconsistent prices with inconsistent times. Now, what we do, sorry, I'm trying to go to the next slide. Thanks. We actually manage the entire process and have the actual customer experience be outsourced from the utility to us. And we do this through a design, build, operate partnership where we incorporate ion exchange resin that we manufacture in-house, capable of removing heavy metals like arsenic, which is abundantly, unfortunately, available in Bangladesh in the groundwater, as well as fluoride, iron, etc. And we provide pay-as-you-go water ATM cards that allow people to top up and collect safe water at a consistent price that is set by the utility with periodic water quality testing. And through this, we've actually been able to validate how our technology, and if you just go to the next slide, to work in some of the most difficult areas, such as in Cambodia, where there's 1,000 ppb of arsenic, or in India, where there's 18 milligrams of fluoride, as well as in Dhaka, where there's 2.4 milligram liters of iron. And in all of these challenging areas, our resins are actually able to bring the raw water down to WHO permissible limits through a 10-year life cycle ion exchange resin that recovers 99% of the water. And this technology was invented at Lehigh University in 2004 by Dr. Arup Singh Gupta, one of the co-founders of Drinkwell. I met him as part of the Fulbright program. I was a Fulbright scholar in 2012. And over the past 9 years, we've actually built a team of over 300 people based in Calcutta, West Bengal, and Dhaka, Bangladesh, to actually scale this technology by partnering directly with utilities and departments of public health engineering. And we've done this thanks in large part to platforms like Imagine H2O, who's connected us with organizations like the World Bank's Global Water Practice, as well as by attracting investment from leading impact funds such as TPG Growth and the RISE Fund, Danone Communities, Global Innovation Fund, and Unilever. Go to the next slide, please. You'll see that in 2019, before the Urban Water Challenge Award, we actually were a one-trick pony where we kind of only worked with Dhaka Wasa. But over the past 2 years since we received the award, thanks to mentorship from the World Bank's Global Water Practice, as well as other connections like the Asian Development Bank, we've been able to go to 5 utility customers. We've been able to 5x our number of deployments, increase the liters dispensed on a monthly basis by 9x to over 18 million liters. And more importantly, we've been able to grow revenues by 5x, and all the while improving the ability to access, for people who live beyond the pipe, to access safe water. Now, when it comes to what we want to do next, if you go to the next slide, please, what you'll see is the World Bank has actually allocated, in partnership with the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, $550 million to set up 3,000 piped water schemes across urban and peri-urban Bangladesh by March 2025. And what we'd love to do is actually take the ATMs that we've gotten deployed and actually retrofit a piped civil work infrastructure. So we'd like to use $5,000 to do that in one site and integrate mobile money enabled billing as well as real-time water quality monitoring to showcase to the government how we can actually replicate this model that we did with beyond the pipe service delivery models now with in the pipe. And it's something that we've had experience doing in both Assam and Dhaka. Here you'll see we scaled up, going from a single pilot to a single digit order from the government to a third order of more than 175 systems. And we hope that with the blessings of the Swedish fish, we can have the same story to bring piped water to these people who live beyond the pipe. I'd love your questions now. Thanks.
Great. Jiten and Savan, it's up to you.
Okay. Thanks for that, Minaj. Great work on your part and the team. I guess given since you've seen this jump in the amount of projects that you deployed over time, what are some of the key learnings of some of the mistakes that you may have made early on that you've been able to use to your benefit now that you're scaling rapidly and you're addressing kind of head on as you deploy?
I would say site selection is the biggest issue. I found that there's a lot of political interference when it comes to setting ambitious targets that are set by political campaigns, election timelines, and that in effect, post haste, creates a situation where of the 300 deployments, 80 are in politically elite areas where there's really no need for safe water. And so since then, what we've done is we've partnered with local NGOs to actually create a wait list of sites where there's clear demand, so that when the top-down kind of directive comes politically, we are actually ready. So I would say that's the biggest learning. The second thing is also creating the supply chain. I think when you go from a 4 to 8 order to 100, 700, 300 systems, having reliable suppliers has been the biggest challenge. We've been able to partner with folks in India to actually leverage some of the experience and the scale of the infrastructure that's happening in India to actually now kind of mitigate that. But I would say those have been the two biggest challenges.
That's great, thank you.
My question is just to elaborate a little bit more about the transition from beyond the pipe to piped water. Is that a overall change, or are you now creating 2 product lines? Just wanted to give you a chance to talk about that a little further.
Yeah, so we're basically using the same deployed system, but attaching civil work to provide piped water to 35 to 40 households. So as part of that World Bank financing agreement, they've allocated $44 million to set up what they call mini piped water schemes, where each scheme will be connected to 35 to 40 households, 2 connections per household, 1 to the kitchen, 1 to the living room. And what they want to do is give private sector operators clusters of these schemes so that in aggregate, it actually has gross margin. And so that's what we want to kind of compete for by showcasing the pilot with the Swedish fish tank funds.
Fantastic. My only other question would be, do you have projected future target markets, outside of your current one, where you'd like to go next after doing this kind of upgrade?
Absolutely. India is absolutely our next target. We've worked in Assam and Eastern India, but there's a massive market in the Western side. And so we want to first dominate Bangladesh, though, and have it be a showcase, and then host the ministers and host the officials in India so that they can get more excited about what's possible.
Awesome. Thanks. Sounds like you're on your way there.
Great. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Minaj. Oh, sorry, had a delay there. Thanks so much, Minaj. It was fun to see that photo of you from 2012, I think, as a Fulbright. Moving from Minaj to likely foggy San Francisco, where Aaron Tartakovsky is working on his on-site water reuse solution. And I have to do a brag about Aaron right now. Pretty special that he was just in the New York Times. So congratulations on that, Aaron. And I will give you the control so that you can take it from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Thank you for the shout out. A lot of what we do as Epic is enabled by Imagine H2O. So I owe our team owes a great debt of gratitude to you all. We've come a long way for those of you who were with us last year at the Swedish fish tank, starting of course with our logo refresh. So that's new, but frankly, that's not the most important thing we're here to talk about today. Let's talk a little bit about Epic. So Epic was born initially out of work with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation from the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge. And what we realized was the solutions that we were working on with the Gates Foundation, which is to say, coming up with distributed solutions that were not dependent on underground sewer infrastructure, was applicable to a lot of different contexts, not just the developing world, but the developed world. One of the greatest challenges we found is that we exist in what we like to call a flush and forget society. And what we mean by that is that people don't think about what happens after they flush their toilets. When they turn on the tap, they expect water to come out. And what that's led to is essentially sort of a lack of education around basic, all things water, wastewater. That's why we say we're on a mission to simplify water reuse. We take something that is scary for a lot of folks, that has a lot of yuck factor connected to it, and we create a one-stop shop to simplify the entire process. Now, let's go back. Okay, great. So we're focused on the US, but frankly, the solutions we're developing are applicable to all cities. Now, a lot of people ask, why are we focused on the built environment? Why are we focused on buildings? And the reason is that, you know, we are building buildings at an incredible rate. You know, we're expecting 70% of the world's population to be living in cities by 2050. And the rate at which we're adding new buildings to the global building stock is like building a new Manhattan every single month from now until 2060. So we see buildings, which by the way, use 14% of all potable water, as an unbelievable place to actually be reusing that water right at the point of source. And when we say buildings, it's data centers, it's campuses, it's even small communities, it's wineries. I mean, the definition is very wide, but one thing that we've done really well is on that last bullet point there, is that we see a lot of innovation in the building side, building engineers doing amazing things, a lot of innovation at the civil master planning side, but we don't actually see a merging of those two disciplines. And that's what we've done at Epic Clean Tech, is we've taken the best wastewater folks, the best building folks, policy folks, regulatory folks, and merged all those together. What we do that's a little different is we actually take everything in the wastewater and repurpose it. So we don't just create clean water, which we can reuse almost up to 95% of a building's water with non-potable applications, but we produce soil amendments and we produce energy. And the energy piece, if you think about a building, we use an incredible amount of energy to heat up water for showers, laundry, dishwashers. All of that water just goes off into our sewer systems. And so what we're able to do is recapture a lot of that heat. And we can actually reuse that energy within the building and get it to a point where our systems are eventually going to be energy neutral. Now, this was our Urban Water Challenge deployment. This is the 1550 project, a 39-story high-rise in downtown San Francisco. This system is going to be reusing almost 1.8 million gallons per year. Now, especially in a drought like we're in California, where we are seeing some really devastating impacts across the value chain in California, you know, this building, by reusing that water, that is almost 1.2 million toilet flushes, for example, that will use recycled water from the building versus fresh water from our national parks. And this model is not only sort of important, and this install is not only important for developing what we're doing, but what we say at Epic is we're not just trying to sort of introduce a new technology, we're trying to change the entire conversation. So really important, and something we really focused on with this project was getting the word out. So we got publications, we got coverage in publications basically across the spectrum. We're actually now soon to be in a new piece in Singapore, a new piece in Germany, because we need people to understand these issues. It goes back to the flush and forget approach we mentioned. We were also recently on the Weather Channel going into 100 million homes, talking about actually the Urban Water Challenge and this very sort of topic that we're talking about, coastal resilience, helping cities to be better designed. And what that's led to for us in terms of our sales prospects is a very rapid growth in the number of projects that we're working on. This is our entire sales pipeline, but we actually anticipate a lot of these will be converting soon. This is an illustration of just some of the projects we're working on throughout California. And again, a lot of these places are places where water reuse has not existed, and we are coming in, bringing together technology, policy, smart regulations, and helping to become the first players to actually be doing this in a lot of these projects. I'll just conclude by pointing to one of our favorite projects that is just beginning construction now. And this is the Park Habitat project in San Jose. It's 20 stories of living wall that will be all irrigated with our recycled water. And what's really fun about this one is our engineers have actually tweaked our process to leave nutrients in the water so that we're actually going to be fertilizing and irrigating this entire living wall with recycled water from our system without the need for fossil fuel based fertilizers. So we have a lot of cool projects like this, some which we will be able to reveal as the months go on. But again, a lot of this work was really enabled from that initial deployment in the 1550 mission project, enabled by the marketing support from Imagine H2O and their generous sponsors. So with that, I will conclude and take questions.
Go for it, Siobhan.
All right. So my first question is around pilot projects. Currently in the sector that you're working in, commercial buildings, are you typically asked to do some sort of pilot, or do your customers typically rely on reference sites? Given that these are pretty bespoke and customized projects, I'm just wondering how you handle that.
Yeah, so I'd say pilots will be reserved for new verticals that we go into. But right now we're going straight into commercial projects. I think while we haven't been around for a long time as a company, as an entity, the folks on our team have collectively decades and decades of experience on basically every part of the value chain, from building engineering to wastewater engineering. The systems that we use are actually pretty straightforward in the sense it doesn't really matter how big the project is. It's about the same footprint. It's a few parking spots. What really changes is the size of the tank. If they're doing 5,000 gallons a day, or, for example, on the East Coast, we're going to be doing a big tech campus, that's 80,000 gallons a day. But the actual engine itself, the membrane bioreactor, which is sort of the underlying technology, doesn't really change depending on the application.
Great, thanks.
Thanks for that, Aaron. In terms of given the fact that obviously the on-site nature of your projects, how has COVID impacted your deployments, and how have you been able to navigate through that?
Yeah, so I think the construction industry as a whole hit some pretty big snags in the early days of the pandemic. Fortunately, we as a company were not even sort of really yet to commercialize. So we use that time to kind of really systematize our approach to make sure that when we do have inbound stuff, we get a proposal out within 48 hours, which is our goal. But construction is very much back on track. And frankly, residential construction never stopped, because residential construction was deemed with the terminology necessary. They were allowed to keep on doing their work. So we actually didn't really see any slowdown in our work at all. And frankly, one of the things that we've done is, because of the cyclical nature of real estate, we have already expanded into new verticals. So now we're deeply involved in the winery world, and now we're getting deeper in the data center world, where data centers use about the same water usage of about 50,000 person city. So buildings are developed, all these tech companies need data. They're building data centers at an unbelievable clip, and we're getting involved in that world as well.
Awesome. And then I guess last question, just in terms of regulatory changes, how have those regulatory changes helped? And do you foresee that? I know it's in California, there's more of a tendency to push this on the regulatory side. Are you seeing that from other states as well?
Yeah, so we've actually been really involved on that front. For a small early stage startup, I think we punch above our weight in terms of sort of getting involved in the regulatory. So we actually helped something pass in California called Senate Bill 966. And what that does is creates a framework of basically a blueprint for how other cities and other states can be doing this. There's currently a Blue Ribbon Commission being run by the head of SF Water. It's 13 states in the District of Columbia looking at that model. But just in the last 2 months, Washington State passed their own set of regulations. Hawaii is about to do the same. We're working with them. And Austin, Texas, I think 6 weeks ago, introduced their own local water recycling program. So we sort of see what's happening now with on-site reuse as to what happened with distributed energy, solar and wind 10 to 15 years ago. So we're 10 to 15 years behind the energy folks, but we also can learn from what they did maybe better and not so good.
Great. Thank you so much, Aaron. Super fun. And that San Jose building looks very, very cool. I am really excited to move to the Netherlands, where Karina Pina is staying up late to present to everyone. So thank you for staying up late. And something quite fun about their technology is that they are now on the Netherlands stamp, which is, so if you happen to get a postcard from Netherlands, you'll see Karina's technology right there. So Karina, I will let you take it from here.
Yes, thank you, Kelly, for the lovely introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Karina Peña. I am co-founder and CEO of the Dutch startup Fuel Factors. And yes, you can find us now on the stamps of the Dutch stamps. So who we are, Fuel Factors, we are a passionate team of designers and engineers making cities green, cool, and future-proof. Let me tell you how. So too much or 2 liter water. We believe this is the real climate crisis affecting not only our planet, but especially our cities as well. And by now, I think all of us have confronted or been faced at first hand with the impact of these climate extremes. On the one hand, we have extreme rain events, more intense and more frequent, causing flooding and overflow of the sewer systems. By now, the last summer, or this summer, the flooding across Europe has hit, I think, headlines in the news. But on the other hand, we also see more frequent and more, actually longer, more persistent droughts across the planet. And these both extremes are, of course, impacting not only our cities, urban life, the environment, but also costing us a lot of money as well. So what we see is the built areas, built environments in our cities, project developers, businesses are being really forced now to look for solutions to face, right, or solve these two extremes. On the one hand, looking for solutions to drain water or retain water on site to prevent flooding and damage to urban infrastructure and buildings. And on the one side also to find solutions to have an alternative to secure the water supply for the ever-growing urban water demand. And here is where we step in. So we thought, why don't we see actually our cities as the solution to this problem? See the big city as a huge catchment area to keep rainwater, to catch rainwater or collect rainwater and keep it there for reuse where it is needed the most, so in the dry periods. So we have developed the Blue Blocks technology. Blue Blocks is a nature-based modular system for rainwater treatment, storage, and reuse in urban areas, especially as I say, in built environments. So what we do in this way, we offer project developers, business and property owners. I didn't change. Something is moving here, Kelly. Previous, I think. Yes, this one, sorry. So a solution with this system, we offer, as I said, project developers and businesses, a compact and reliable solution to turn rainwater into a reliable source for freshwater supply on site. In this way, not only avoiding damage and to prevent flooding, but also a solution to save on their water bills. So how it works is what we do is that we collect rainwater that falls on your project site. The collected water is treated, and because what we do is we collect the water from paved surfaces. You can imagine streets or roofs as well. The rainwater runoff carries pollutants with it of everything that it encounters, and it's along when it flows. So we treat the water with a biofilter, a natural filter. That what we see, we make it visible in this way. The treatment, what you see here is a sort of rain garden, but it's actually a quite controlled natural treatment process. And from there, the collected water, we store it in the underground, in the natural aquifers. The collected rainwater is then available for reuse. By using the local aquifer to, sorry, Kylie, I don't know what is, it's, sorry, the previous one. Yes, thanks. By keeping the water in the local aquifer, it is available for long-term use. So the water we can also recover it when it is in the summer months or when it is dry, or actually when you need it, and it stays of good quality. So our system, this image is our deployment from the Deployment Award. But let me first explain you where we are. In 2018, we implemented our first project, our first pilot in the city of Rotterdam, where we are collecting rainwater from an urban area on the public space and reusing the water for the irrigation of the soccer stadium, for the irrigation of the sporting pitches of the Sparta Stadium. In this way, we are not only preventing flooding of the neighborhood, but also saving a lot of drinking water being used for irrigation. So creating really a sustainable supply of water, a sustainable alternative supply for water. But the system has now been operational for 3 years, so we have proven it works. But also, we also learned that the biggest barrier for new technologies or decentralized water supply or rainwater treatment or reuse on site is that most operators don't know how it works, how to maintain it, how to operate it, but also it creates a lot of uncertainty on the quality of the water, how to use water safely. So with the deployment, this is our second system in which we have tested with the deployment where we developed an operational maintenance and monitoring service, which we have tested in our second deployment. In the city of The Hague, what you see here is actually the newly built biofilters. The plants are quite slow. They grow as a nice garden. And in the surrounding is an urban park, which has been recently renovated last year in the city of The Hague. So what we do here is in the public space, which has been renovated around, we collect the rainwater there. The water is treated with our system, stored in the underground, and being used not only to keep the park actually green, so by irrigating it, but also really nicely to create awareness on the reuse of water. What you see here in the picture in the background of the biofilter are like a new gardens for green garden in the city. So what do
Karina, I think we're just going to pause there because I want to make sure that the judges have time for some questions. So let's make sure we have one question around the deployment from the judges.
Oh, sorry. Can I just have 1 minute to finish?
Sure.
Yeah? Sorry, I had a lot of struggle with the slides. I'm nearly done. I just want to say where we are now. So where are we? We started 5 years ago with the first idea, which now is we tested after the deployment. We have 4 new systems installed and 4 others on the inline to be built in the next year. So we are targeting coastal cities, especially in Europe. We recently won a challenge to start working with the city of Copenhagen, but also the city of New York is interested in our technology. To save, and we are targeting in the next 2 years to have 10 cities to save 10 million liters of water per year, to not only prevent flooding in urban areas, but also enhance livability of the built environment and ensure the fresh water supply for the coming generations. So that was my presentation. Maybe the next one to show you my team, and we are a small team of 10 by now and growing. So thanks a lot, and sorry for the crazy things with my slides. So thanks for the attention.
Thanks, Karina. And I think we just have time for one question from the judges.
Yeah.
Sure, I can jump in.
Yeah.
Karina, thank you for that. In terms of timeline, not only once you start a project, but just the lead time, how much time does it take from start to finish? And then also what types of geological studies need to be done to make sure that you're deploying your projects in the right areas?
Yes, thanks for the question. Indeed, that has been, especially in the first years, the lead time of projects has been the biggest challenge. It can be from 12 months until up to 18 months, which we are now making, which is becoming shorter. Why? Just because we have now, of course, proven the technology. We have a lot of reference projects that we rely on, so it's easier to do the conversion or just to create that trust, let's say, in the customers. And geological studies, indeed, we really need to see, we need to check the feasibility of the underground, geological feasibility to store the water locally. But the picture I showed for our scalability is actually most coastal areas are suitable, in which the problem is actually more urgent because of course the freshwater depletion of the groundwater is actually more pressing. Let's say, so that's where we are targeting.
Great. Thank you so much, Karina. We are going to move back to Texas, where I am right now with Shay Fabode of Varuna, who is ensuring that all communities have access to safe drinking water. And One highlight I did want to share that I know Shay won't probably share because he's very humble is they were on the Google homepage on World Water Day, which was really, really exciting to see. So Shay, I will let you take it from here.
Thank you. I think I have control now. There we go. Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. And yes, I wasn't going to share, so thank you for sharing that. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Shay Fabode, and my co-founder and I, Jamel Carter, we believe that when people know better, they do better. When water systems know better, they do better. And this sort of comes from my background, running operations for a power plant in the UK a few years ago. And what we had then was just this visibility into what was going on the grid, which impacted the way we did our work at the plant. And Jamel, my co-founder and good friend, he sold into governments for all of his career, frankly. And what we found a few years ago, right after Flint, but also I live in Austin, we had some water quality problems here in Austin. And it very quickly indicated to me a similar problem we'd had with power before, but was even more apparent in water now, which is that to understand what's going on outside of the water treatment plant, many of the small to medium-sized water systems, which is the market segment we focused on, small to medium-sized water systems would have to send a technician in a truck to go take a sample, hopefully get it back to the plant in time to then decide what to do based on any data they got from that sample. Obviously inefficient, and while we hear of contamination issues or boil water warnings and we immediately go to, oh, it's infrastructure, some of it is just operational inefficiencies like the one I just described here. And where we found the biggest problem lay was in small communities with underserved minority populations, where the technology to monitor across the system was overpriced for their needs and bloated to a certain extent. So about this time last year, when we were doing the application for the Urban Water Challenge, we'd already identified 2 cities that we could work with to deploy our solution in: Trenton, New Jersey, and Monroe, Louisiana. Minority, majority towns where the distribution system is far, and you have locations where samples aren't taken to inform and make sure that the operators could deliver clean water consistently. So what they were doing in place of sending a technician to go take samples was just flush the water and waste it, which, apart from being the wrong way to do this and unsustainable for the water system, it's also unsustainable generally, considering what we're seeing across the world. And it's not just in these communities, but it's where we focused on to address a problem that is really global in its scale. So what we do is we drop our nodes, is what we call them. I'll just go to that. We drop these nodes that are self-powered with parameters that are necessary for the daily operation of the water system. We capture those from those blind spots, as we like to call them, and we pull those into digital representations of the physical system, because we also take some of their paper-based information to start to build out one source of truth for these small water systems at a price that they can afford, because traditionally they would not be able to pay for some of the more elaborate solutions like this that exist. Our systems allow them to address any alerts before it gets to a situation where customers get harmed. As we get more data, we start to try to predict any possible contaminant shock, and we upskill and optimize the ability of the technicians to run clean, water through their systems consistently for consumers. Increased visibility, increased operational efficiencies, and reduction in water wastage. We deployed 6 units in Trenton, New Jersey, and 2 in Monroe, Louisiana. And I'll touch on one thing quickly. This third image here is actually a unit that the Monroe team redesigned on our behalf, which has become input into our future designs now. And it's a level of collaboration we like to have with these small water systems that just need the tools to do the work they desperately would love to do to provide consistently clean water. Since we did those 2 projects, we've ended up signing cities larger than the ones we intended, but our units would be deployed in these communities of color to, again, ensure consistent delivery of clean water by water systems that traditionally could not afford or deploy these complex, oversized solutions. And we like to say we provide a right-sized product at the right price to enable them to become resilient water systems and consistently deliver clean water to their customers. And that's what we'll just keep doing. We're increasing the size of the engagements with Monroe and Trenton, but we also have a couple of additional grants we just got recently, actually, to deploy similarly in some cities in North Carolina. So thank you so much again, Kelly and team. You've been phenomenal for us. I keep saying this. It's just, as partners, you've been fantastic. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I will let the judges take it from here.
Yeah, I will ask the question. Thanks for the presentation, and really great to hear about the collaboration with one of your partners. That's always shows excellent buy-in and a definite customer need there to, to get that level of engagement.
Yeah.
So my question is just generally, it seems like you've gotten quite a bit of uptick in the last 2.5 years. Wanted to ask for your thoughts about through the Urban Water Challenge deployment and some of your deployments over the past couple of years. What have you learned, and did it bring about any pivots or changes in your thinking about your product, in addition to the physical mechanical product improvement that you were talking about?
Yes, thanks for the question. And before the Urban Water Challenge grant last year, which was, I believe, October last year, if I remember correctly, we only had 2 other customers. And what they all kept wondering as we were pitching the solution was, where have you done this? So to be able to show 6 units in one city and 2 in another city, and show the engagement with the operators in those cities, immediately changed the conversation for us. New York, we sent a video of one of the deployments to New York City. They'd seen us on a webinar. I imagine H2O actually invited us on the webinar as well. New York City saw us, and they have some parts of their cities where they needed affordable solutions to serve the customers. What it's shifted to, and I wouldn't call it a pivot because there's still those blind spots. What it's shifted to is what I was sharing, where we're now essentially creating what we call digital twin light versions for these cities. They're not buying they can't afford the big Bentley systems, digital twins. But as they plan for the future of their water systems, where should we put a storage tank? What pipes are we going to be removing and replacing with the infrastructure money coming in? We can then start to tell them through our DT Lite, is what we're calling it. You've consistently had chlorine, accelerated chlorine depletion in this part of the city. Maybe you want to put a small booster pump station with a chlorine dosing system in that part of the city. This is how much it'll cost. These are the improvements you can simulate that it'll provide. And Trenton is the city we started it with. And it's what we're doing with Amarillo and a few of these other smaller cities, that while we give them the nodes, we also give them one source of truth. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Shay. And finally, we're heading to Brazil, where Daniel Zalante and Sulfur Trenchless are affordably upgrading pipeline with a very cool trenchless tech. I have to say, this is one of those tech that's so fun to see in action. So Daniel, I will let you take it from here. Daniel, we can't hear you.
There we go. Sorry. Okay. My apologies. So can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So hi, I'm Daniel, a co-founder of Sulfur Trenchless, a company that started out of MIT with a very simple goal, which is bringing the infrastructure that we need to deliver that clean water to the world. Well, as you know, billions of people lack access to clean water source, and billions more lack access to sanitation. And there are plenty of technologies, great technologies with great companies as well, and great people working on solutions for this problem. But not that many have started working well. Now it's a hot topic that we believe since we started, it's an issue that must be addressed, which is the high cost of the infrastructure that we need to deliver that water to people. We always hear about pipes and the lack of pipes, and the underlying reason is like installing an underground pipe, it's just extremely expensive. It could be for safe water, drinking water, or it could also be for sanitation. Regardless, it's extremely expensive. And what most people are not aware of is that about 70% of the cost on a pipeline project, it's directly related to the excavation required to lay a pipe underground. And that's a problem we try to solve. So at Sulfur, we had plenty of industry experience working in the pipeline business. And we created a new trenchless technology, which sadly the video is not showing, that it's capable of horizontally drilling the ground and installing an underground pipe without the need for a trench. So think of it as minimally invasive surgery for streets and cities. And that's a technology we have started deploying, and we have achieved up to 40% cost savings opportunities in projects that we've done in Colombia, Bogota, specifically in Bogota. One of which was in Cota, Colombia, and that's a project that, thanks to Imagine H2O and the Urban Water Challenge, we were able to finance. So this project exemplifies what we can achieve with our technology. The image you're seeing on the background, it's of the river of Bogota, where people would be just dumping the untreated water. It was estimated that about 450 tons of waste was left untreated, and that was generating health issues in the community. We're talking about a city of about 25,000 people. So the city had a budget, like they received the budget grant to try to solve this problem, and they decided to build a treatment plant, which was built, and to then find out that the pipelines that they needed to connect the city to the treatment plant was even more expensive than the plant itself. So they had two options. They either would have to cut the project and just connect part of the city, or option B, and that's when we stepped in. Thanks to our technology, we were able to install all the pipelines at a much lower cost without them having to either ask for more budget or cut the size of the project. That's a picture of the project. It was a video, but it's not playing. And that's how the machine works. We horizontally drill the ground and install an underground pipeline without disrupting traffic. That really helped to minimize or eliminate the problems with the health issues with untreated water being in the river. And that was our first project ever. Since then, we've done 4 more under 5 types of soil conditions. We installed 6 pipeline diameters. And last January, we hit our first milestone of over half a kilometer of pipeline installed just in Colombia, thanks to that initial project. to give you a sense, that would have required over 3 competing technologies and well over $1 million in investment just in equipment. What Sulfur sold for $250,000, the machine itself. And we started in 2018. Has been a long journey. We started by winning grants like this one's, like the Urban Water Challenge, because working with hardware, it's extremely difficult, and working in water with hardware, it makes it even harder. So we bootstrapped the company as long as we could until in 2019 we got the Urban Water Challenge award, and we used that money to start our first project in Bogota, Colombia. And since then, we have started to we manufacture a second piece of machinery. Now we're making it available for rent, and it's being used in projects with Acueducto Bogota, which is the biggest water utility company in the country. Now our next step is we want to expand. We're looking into Brazil. We had a very strong lead to do a project in Peru and also in the United States. So hopefully we will be expanding rapidly very soon. So let me introduce you to the founding team that made this possible. We're 10 people in the company already, but let me speak about my co-founder. Roberto is a mechanical engineer with over 7 years of experience in the trenchless industry, and then 3 more years in the infrastructure industry. And he started as a sales representative and technical support of competing technologies to then move into a contracting role, like he worked for a contractor. So he has been installing pipelines for a long time, and that's why how we came up with the solution. And myself, I'm a graduate from MIT from the MBA program, who has focused my career. I have focused my career in innovation and entrepreneurship. So finally, I just want to conclude by saying that we have a game-changing technology, has been an award-winning technology by industry experts in a market that has a very real need. And most importantly, we believe we have the team to make this happen and expand our impact. So thank you so much. I'm open to questions now.
I think we have time for one short question.
Great. Daniel, congrats, and it seems like you obviously have put together a great team and technology. In terms of the sales cycle for this technology, and obviously on the hardware side, what have you found to be an effective strategy to be able to deploy, not only obviously in Colombia, but other countries where this is obviously a necessity?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The sales cycle, we divided the sales process in 2. There is a short sales cycles process, which are trenchless technologies have been around for many years, but they're extremely expensive. So what we do in that case, but it's a niche market right now, like because of the reputation of being expensive, we're not really, it hasn't expanded that quickly. So to those people, we approach them, it's public bids typically, and we approach them when they're bidding for the project and saying like, hey, if you use our technology, you're gonna save whatever, 30, 40% in cost. So that's a fairly quick sales cycle. And then there is the second sales cycle, which we want to focus on, which is talking to cities and letting them know that now it is affordable to use trenchless. And that process, it's a bit longer. It can take 12 months to 18 months from the moment you start talking to the city to actually execution, sometimes even 24 months. But we have started that work also with engineering firms as well. So it is a 2-step process. In the short term, to get some revenue, we tackle existing projects, but in order to grow the market, we tackle engineering firms and cities.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel. And thank you, judges. We're right at time right now. So unfortunately, I don't have time for any more questions, but for all those on the line and those watching the recording, please go vote on Imagine H2O's website. That will be up for 1 week. And I will be talking with the judges after to find out their take, but I just wanted to thank both the alumni and the judges for coming out today.
Thank you.
All right, bye now, and thank you so much for coming to the session.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.